Hi everyone, I'm here with Thomas Graff. He is a multidisciplinary artist with a passion for drawings, paintings. He's a creative director and an art director. We're here at the lovely Brokers Gallery today, and I'm so excited to learn more about you and hear your story. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to it, so thanks.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of a quick Zoom introduction call before this interview, and we talked about so many wonderful things, but we talked about our aha moment when we realized that we were artists. Can you take me back to like the beginning of your creative journey?
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm sure this might be something that you all can relate to and you can relate to as a creative person, but when I was a kid, I remember in second grade, our teacher asking us, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I knew I wanted to be an artist. Yeah. For me, I grew up the youngest of 6 kids, and my family had a lot of creative talents. So like we would sing a lot in my family. My mom played piano, my sisters were musical. We also had like, my dad played guitar. There was just like a lot of creativity in my house. So like, yeah. I didn't necessarily know that I was going to be painting or drawing. But when I was a kid, I started learning piano and I was singing, and then eventually I learned how to play the saxophone, and I joined a band, and I did like a lot of creative stuff. But I knew at a young age that I wanted to be an artist, a creative person. Yeah. But I also had the encouragement of people around me that were like, do it. Yeah. And so it's like my younger self just always stuck with that. And I didn't like, you know, I kind of like tried different stuff, but I always knew I wanted to be an artist.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you had a good support system growing up, which sounds like you did. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone in particular that really helped you?
Well, my piano teacher, going back to piano, her name was Mrs. Billings, but I would see her every week, and she became like a motivator and a supporter for me. Like there was a woman, one of my teachers growing up, like Mrs. Google, she was one of my English teachers, but when I was in high school, I used to be in all the plays and the musicals. And one time she organized a trip for us all from Illinois to go to New York and go see Broadway shows and actually meet Broadway producers. Like as a high school student, that was really inspiring because she took the effort that she didn't have to do as a high school, teacher to bring us there. But she saw that we were really into it. And so she supported us and encouraged us to do more. So, there's plenty of people like that.
Was there a time where you doubted yourself, and like, how did you build your confidence?
You mean, do I doubt myself all the time now? Yes. I think the reality is like everybody has imposter syndrome. It's not just creative people. Okay. I think we have a different struggle or like a different challenge. And that challenge is like, for an artist to show up in the room, just the way the world is in reality, is people downplay the value of art or creativity. Yeah. So I kind of wish we lived in a world or a society where people saw the creative in the room and was like, whoa, like that person is gold. Yeah. However, most of the time in a conversation in like a business meeting, it's always like, oh yeah, we need to run a campaign, but like we only have $500. Like the value is always lower for the creative person. Yeah. So I feel like when we come to the table, we have to prove ourselves more than somebody who hypothetically like works in like finance or something. Right. Or something that is deemed as like in the business world, something that people absolutely need, so they'll pay for it. So that's like a challenge that we face that not people in other careers have to face, I think. Yeah. But because of that, I think you kind of tend to doubt yourself. You're like, wait, am I valuable enough? Like, am I bringing enough to the table? Yeah. But you really are.
For someone who's starting out, should they consider doing something that is more low budget?
If a project comes along and they're like, well, here's $100, and you're like, okay, well, because I did that, I'm gonna meet 500 new people, take the $100 project, like just so you can network. Yeah. Because if you, even in a business class or like in a business setting, you're told to go to networking events. Yeah. But networking events cost money. You need to buy the ticket, you need to meet the people, and sometimes you go to these events and you like, this isn't really my crowd. But let's say you were like wanting to create just as an example, social media content, and like somebody's going to introduce you to like 50 influencers, and they're going to still pay you $100. Oh my God, that's so worth it.
Yeah.
For that effort, if that's your goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. You own your own company, Visual Carbon, where you're doing creative direction, you're doing art direction for fashion, beauty brands. How do you go about finding clients? We talked a little bit about networking.
Yes, that's the challenge.
Do you have like a strategy or a process?
To be honest, so the way that started was I was living in New York. So I was working at this really big photo studio. It's called Milk Studios. And I was working there and I just started meeting people, networking. It's a big part of like being a freelancer.
Yeah.
And through that, just letting people know what I could bring to the table. Which at the time I was like, Squarespace had just come out. So that was like a new thing at the time. And I was like, oh, this is so easy. Like it's such a user-friendly thing. So I like invested some time into learning how that program works. I became a Creative Circle member, which is like a thing you can do with Squarespace. This is not a plug for Squarespace, by the way, but I basically was like, oh, do you need a website? Cool, I can help you do that. I can also help you take the photos. I can also help like style you and like help you kind of brand what it is you're trying to do. And I can help in your marketing to like, how do we like portray this in a way that makes sense for your vision, which is what like art directors do. And just through telling people, because who doesn't need a website? As soon as I built one person's site, they were like, oh, I have 5 friends that also need it. And then eventually I started working for bigger clients. So like just an example, there's one really cool client who I love, who they're called Bowie USA. They're a body scrubbers and they make like toothbrushes that are recyclable. They're very eco-friendly. They're in Target now. They're an amazing company. And I got to work with them at the very beginning of their brand. And it was cool because later another company was on Shark Tank who was sort of not a direct competitor, but they wanted to hire me because of the visuals that I had done for this other company.
Gotcha.
And so sometimes when you are just focused and you bring something new to the table, like in that case, I was shooting products in like an interesting way for the time. And so that attracted somebody else who was like, I want that for me. But you have to put in the work. If you looked at just this work right now, you would think like, oh, I just do drawing. And that's fine, that would make sense. But I also like kind of tapped into other skills too, because they become a resource when I need them to be a resource. And that's okay, and that's good. And I think in today's like market, creatives should expand and they should hone in on what they're good at, which is great, but also just be open-minded to knowing that like, for example, AI is a huge topic right now.
Yeah.
I use AI all the time, but that's because I embrace AI and I see how AI can help me. And if like creatives, for example, are against it, which a lot of them are, which is fine, just know that like now there's a market who needs AI. So like if you want to make money, sometimes you can find a way that it makes sense for you to get involved with something that everybody is going to need.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's a very good point. You went to art school. You studied design. So you had an educational background in the arts. Let's say they wanted to get into the creative space. Do you think that it's important to go to school?
What a question. I think that school is extremely expensive in the United States. And I also think there's a mentality here, and that's like, it's like a business. Like, I almost feel like nowadays, like when I talk to my nieces and my nephews, and there's like a conversation that comes up almost around going to like a trade school instead of going to a 4-year university. To be honest, I find that idea pretty attractive. Like, why wouldn't you just go learn the skill that you want to learn? As long as you've already finished like a high school degree, you know, like you should have like general knowledge for like, as a society, ideally we have like similar knowledge, right? But if you're specifically wanting to get into like, whatever, art, and you specifically want to get into photography, like, just as an example, I think it makes sense to like go to a program that can advance that skill. And I also think that things like YouTube and like social media, like there is so much information available and it's miraculous. Like I did not have that when I was thinking about going to college. But now when I want to learn a skill, even as a creative director, when I work on these projects, just like many people now, I'm like, let me find the information that I need when I need it, and I Google it.
Yeah.
Either like there's a YouTube video, there's somebody out there who is like already an expert, and that's amazing. So I kind of feel like it's a double-edged sword. You go to like a certain college, and they can connect you to a world where you could get into the field where you really want to get into, but you're also learning the valuable skills that you need. Yeah, maybe it's worth the investment. But I would see it like, it's not, like when I was growing up, the idea was like, you're going to college.
Yeah.
But I don't think that pressure needs to be in everyone's mind now. Like, do you have to go to college? Like, maybe not.
Okay.
So like, the idea is like, the choice is yours.
Yeah.
Not like, do it because you're told to do it. But like,
Agreed. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your drawings and paintings that by the way, the background over here is all of Thomas's work. Okay. We'll show more in different clips, but you are such a talented artist.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, someone wants their artwork exhibited at a gallery. How do you do that?
Just to start the conversation, I think artists have a really unique challenge, and that unique challenge is like, we're out here witnessing the world, right? And it's up to us to like take our perception of that world and express ourselves, however that is. Drawing, painting, digital art, dancing, singing, whatever the form of art is. But then the choice is whether or not you show somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's a deeply personal choice. And I would encourage people to make that choice based on looking at the world around you and seeing how that might impact your community, to say like, whoa, like the reason I chose to show this work is because I can see people struggling. I'm struggling with a lot of the stuff that I went through in my life recently.
Yeah.
And so I chose to have this show because I wanted to open up a dialogue with people like you, or people like you and the community, just to say like, we're all kind of struggling in a lot of ways. Let's talk about it. Yeah. If you wanted to show at a gallery, you need a lot of artwork. Like to make this like amount of art, it didn't just happen overnight. Like it wasn't just the artwork too, is like finding these frames and like printing out all the cards and putting together a whole show. And the paintings, like those took almost a year, I would say, just to get, I don't even know if there's like 10 paintings.
Yeah.
But like when you approach a gallery, so somebody who's interested, you just need a body of work that's really strong. And it's not like a piece or two. It's like if you wanted to have like a solo show, so you can do group shows, and that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
The only thing that kind of bothers me a little bit is like there are gallery fees to submit a piece of art for shows.
Oh, okay.
Which I find, I mean, I get it. Like, I know there's like an administrative fee, basically. The gallery is going to put on a show and a bunch of people are going to submit work. So people need to be there to review the work and make considerate choices.
Like a college application.
Yes. Yeah.
Why do I have to pay?
Well, but that's the thing, because it's kind of like...
to go to your college.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it's a...
I understand that like somebody is on the other side of that reviewing, and that takes time. Yeah. But one thing is that like if you wanted to submit to a gallery, sometimes there's those fees, and that adds up. Like sometimes it's $25, sometimes it's $50 or $75. And so let's say you had one painting that you really believed in, and you submitted it to like 10 shows, and each one was $50, and you got into none of them. Yeah. That's like a bummer for an artist. Yeah. You know, like who's just trying so hard to get one piece into a gallery. So I would like, you could start there. I'm personally just the type of thinker that's like, I want to do my own thing if I could. And so I'm like, let me just get the work together. Like I have a thought in my head, I have a message, I have an idea for a show, and let me try to approach a gallery and ask if they're interested in having a solo exhibition of my work. And there's many galleries that would say no to that, because I'm not in San Diego, I'm not like an established artist that people are craving to see my work right now. They don't know me in that way, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So when I spoke to this gallery, it was an awesome timing, because they just did, Steven, who's the gallery director, and Kamar, who runs the gallery as well. Like they're incredible guys, very creative themselves. They know what it's like to be an artist, and a lot of gallery people do too. But they had just renovated the space, and I was like, I have a show, like I can bring it all if you're interested in what I have to say.
Yeah.
And they were at the time, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
But you have to prepare, like you have to just be able to like see the space and say like, let me bring something to you.
Yeah.
So it's like that work up front.
Yeah. Is there a message that you can share with someone who wants to pursue art as a career?
If you want to do art as a hobby, that's one thing. If you want to do art as a career, you have to think like a career person. I would encourage, first of all, like we talked about before, being really good at one thing is not a bad thing. It's just a little limiting, sort of, sometimes. So you might consider just being really open-minded to everything. Like seeing like, just from my example, it's like, yeah, I went to art school and photography, and here I am having a show with like my drawings. Like you would never see like, am I using my degree in this moment? Like kind of, but not directly.
Yeah.
But I chose to like allow myself to be creative however the hell I felt like being creative.
Yeah.
So like just be creative in whatever that means. Like have an open mind, be many things if you're one of those types of people. Don't be afraid to do that. And also like just imagine the impact that you would have on somebody else, and maybe that can help you make choices along the way.
Yeah.
Like when you can step outside of yourself and say, how would this impact others? If you're going to make a career out of it, it's just like maybe a helpful starting point. Is just to imagine like you might be home drawing and sketching and stuff, which is amazing, and it's good for your self-expression to do that. But then there's like the career side. Yeah. Which is like you need the community, and how does the community need you? Yeah. And if it's dance your ass off and like have so much fun. Yeah. And like do something that's like really impactful.
Lastly, when did you realize that art was more than a hobby to you?
I think, actually I can tell you. Yeah. When I was younger, my dad was a realtor. My dad was an accountant who found real estate, and he became a realtor. He started his own brokerage, and it's called Graph Realty. Everybody in my family, pretty much besides me, has worked in real estate, or they've worked for Graph Realty in some capacity. At some point, my twin brother, he moved to San Diego, and he brought a portion of Graph Realty here. So there's Graph Realty in San Diego as well now. So there's the Illinois version, and there's San Diego version also. My dad basically taught us that anything you want in this world, you have to work for it. And it wasn't just my dad, it was my mom as well. Like they just taught us like, this is not gonna be like, here's your allowance every week, like everything's handed to you. We were definitely like, sometimes to extreme levels, it was kind of a little tough as a kid, but we had to work for everything we had. And when I was in high school, I wanted to like do certain things, but I couldn't afford them. And for example, like I remember specifically, I like wanted to go to one of the high school dances, but I couldn't afford the tuxedo to go. And so one of my neighbors hired me to paint a mural for them. And in exchange, they paid for the tuxedo. And I remember one time I was like wanting to like go out with friends. And at the time I was working for Chili's, the restaurant. And the manager knew that was creative. So she's like, well, if you paint like a mural here, then like I can give you a gift card for like Chili's.
Wow.
And I was like, awesome. So like I did that. And then there was like a fitness gym that was like, hey, during the holidays, like we want our windows to all say like happy holidays, but we want to see it from like the highway. And so they brought me in and like I painted that for them. And then I also painted like their kids' playroom, like this, like, I remember it was like hippo themed. It was like funny, hippos and like zoo animals. Anyways, I just like learned at a younger age, like if I want things and I have to work for them, I could find a way to use my creative skills to like bring it all together.
Yeah.
When I was younger and I was like doing all these projects, like that only took me further in my career.
Yeah.
Like when I was living in New York, like I had all these random skills. Like if I was on set and somebody was like, oh shoot, like we need this model to walk in and like we need a sign that says like we love New York. Like I was the one who was like painting the little I love New York thing because it's like it's so simple, but like it saved the day in that way, you know? So yeah, I think I knew that I was like making this a career even at a younger age because I understood that there was like a transaction. Like I'm bringing this to your table, you're gonna bring this to my table, and it's a win-win, and like that's awesome.
That's an amazing story. I love that.
Actually, it's like it's like
so
funny.
wholesome.
No, it's like
And
funny
cute.
too. I was prom king.
Oh my
I couldn't even
God.
afford my own tuxedo, so I almost didn't even go. And I was like, oh, yeah.
That's so cool. Oh, I love that. Life.
I know, life. But, yeah. But that's still like, sorry to like add more, but that's what we can all do now. You could almost bring an opportunity to somebody's table and say like, hey, look, like I can see the side of your business. Like I could imagine if we like painted the color differently, you might get more business. Would you allow me to paint the side of the wall, like a mural, or like, can I make you a sign that like people are gonna walk by this place and love the sign? Yeah. Like we have to also find opportunities now. Yeah. If you want to do this as a career, that's what business people do. I mean, we like have a vision and we want to make something, but then like the next step is whether you show the art. If you want to have a gallery show, if you want to make it a career, like what's missing in the market? Like that's just what like people that make money in business. That's exactly what their kind of job is to do that. Like businesses that are successful are solving a problem. Yeah. So like even as an artist, like hardcore traditional artist who's just like in their feelings, other people are sharing those same emotions, but you just have to find where those people are and like how can you speak to them in a way that will allow them to like feel so deeply connected that they would want to buy your art. Yeah. You know, you're making like shirts and you're going to be making apparel from the company that you're doing. And it's like, even nowadays, a lot of people want to wear art too. That's a thing. Like you could take something that's very traditionally art, but then like put it on apparel. Yeah. That's an option. You can partner with like businesses, like streetwear brands, whatever. Yeah. And that's also art. Yeah. I think that's all the questions that I had for you. I felt like we had a really good conversation about so many different topics. Maybe we can do another round one of these days. But sorry, I'm like talking your ear off. Yeah. No, not at all. You were so informative, and I think like your story will help so many people that are looking to get into creative roles. So thank you so much. Awesome. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Art, there's like no going back. And like I think about that conversation all the time because it is true. Like once you do turn on your business brain, there's a certain quality of artwork that does change because your focus is pulled a little bit from the work. Like is it like more so about what is attractive to others, someone else? Exactly. And so you kind of are putting other people's perspective into your work. Yeah. And it changes you.